Well, hi guys. I hope you guys are having a good night. Sure, you gonna follow along, please?
What?
You need some stomach cramp pills or something?
No, I'm gonna take a pain pill.
You go take some aspirin or something. You go in there and take you something. Here, you want some of my pulp?
No, but
You need. Are you feeling sick?
it's
Here,
hurting.
here, walk through the camera. I should have got me one of those headbands for my video for Christmas. Did you see them today? The Christmas headbands. It's at the Dollar Tree today. Should have got me one for my Christmas video, guys. I didn't think. Just trying to hurry in there. Maybe I'll be able to go again next month or something. I can get one. They don't got none over there, do they, babe? Anything like nothing. Do they sell them? They don't got nothing out yet, guys. Went to Walmart today, and I thought I'd be able to see the gift sets because they got a whole bunch of them online. Because I saw a couple I wanted to get for, like, I wanted to get one for my nephew, one of my nephews, and one for my dad, and they didn't have none for guys out that I wanted to get. But they had a few for girls, you know, makeup ones. But like one or two aisles, that was it. Nothing like they had online. So they'll be putting it out after I'm not able to go. And then have it out next month, you know, when it's like Christmas is right now. It's right at the last minute.
The night before Christmas they'll have it.
Crazy. Not very good for the people that can only go once a month. You guys like my new pin? Sherm got for me? I call her Pinkie Pie. Well, we got 3 videos to do today, and I'm going to try to do them all on one video, so I better be quiet and get started. I don't know if we'll have time to do the prayer request, but I'll get the book out here just in case. But, you know, we probably won't have time. Alright, well, let's get started here. We'll be reading straight through with the Hebrews. So we'll be reading Hebrews chapter 8, Hebrews chapter 9, verse 1 through 10, and then Hebrews chapter 11 through verse 28. Alright, and then we'll go into our Psalms and our Proverbs for all 3 days. Got me a couple new bandanas at Walmart today. Been wanting to find me a pretty hat to wear. What? You told me to come on, didn't you?
No.
I'm sorry, I like to talk. My hair's getting so thin, and I feel uncomfortable when I wanted to cover my hair, but I couldn't find me a hat, and my head's so big. It's hard to find one to fit me anyway. So these are only $1, so I got me a couple. I was wishing now I would have got me a couple of the Christmas ones they had. And they had some with unicorns on it. Stupid me didn't get none of them either. I don't like to spend money on myself though. Alright guys, so let's begin. Now the main point of what we are saying is this. We do have such a high priest who sat down at the right hand of the throne of the majesty in heaven, and who serves in the sanctuary, the true tabernacle set up by the Lord, not by a mere human being. Every high priest is appointed to offer both gifts and sacrifices, and so it was necessary for this one also to have something to offer. If he were on earth, he would not be a priest, for there are already priests who offer the gifts prescribed by the law. They serve at a sanctuary that is a copy and shadow of what is in heaven. This is why Moses was warned when he was about to build the tabernacle. See to it that you make everything according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. But in fact, the ministry Jesus has received is as superior to theirs as the covenant of which he is mediator is superior to the old one, since the new covenant is established on better promises. For if there had been nothing wrong with that first covenant, no place would have sought for another. But God found fault with the people and said, "The days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the people of Israel and with the people of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they did not remain faithful to my covenant, and I turned away from them, declares the Lord. This is the covenant I will establish with the people of Israel. After that time, declares the Lord, I will put my laws in their minds and write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will they teach their neighbor or say to one another, 'Know the Lord,' because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, for I will forgive their wickedness and will remain and remember their sins no more. By calling this covenant new, he has made the first one obsolete, and what is obsolete and outdated will soon disappear." Now the first covenant had regulations for worship and also an earthly sanctuary. A tabernacle was set up. In its first room were the lampstand and the table with its consecrated bread. This was called the holy place. Behind the second curtain was a room called the most holy place, which had the golden altar of incense and the gold-covered ark of the covenant. This ark contained the gold jar of manna, Aaron's staff that had budded, and the stone tablets of the covenant. That would be the 10 Commandments, the tablets. Above the ark were the cherubim of the glory, overshadowing the atonement cover, but we cannot discuss these things in detail now. When everything had been arranged like this, the priests entered regularly into the outer room to carry on their ministry, but only the high priest entered the inner room, and that only once a year, and never without blood, which he offered for himself and for the sins the people had committed in ignorance. The Holy Spirit was showing by this that the way into the most holy place had not yet been disclosed as long as the first tabernacle was still functioning. This is an illustration for the present time, indicating that the gifts and sacrifices being offered were not able to clear the conscience of the worshiper. They are only a matter of food and drink and various ceremonial washings, external regulations applying until the time of the new order. But when Christ came as high priest of the good things that are now already here, he went through the greater and more perfect tabernacle that is not made with human hands. That is to say, it is part of this creation. He did not enter by means of the blood of goats and calves, but he entered the most holy place once for all by his own blood, thus obtaining eternal redemption. The blood of goats and bulls and the ashes of a heifer sprinkled on those who are ceremonially unclean sanctify them so that they are outwardly clean. How much more then will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself unblemished to God, cleanse our consciousness from acts that lead to death, so that we may serve the living God. For this reason, Christ is the mediator of a new covenant, that those who are called may receive the promised eternal inheritance. now that he has died as a ransom to set them free from the sins committed under the first covenant. In the case of a will, it is necessary to prove the death of the one who made it, because a will is the force only when somebody has died. It never takes effect until the one who made it is living. This is why even the first covenant was not put into effect without blood. When Moses had proclaimed every command of the law to all the people, he took the blood of calves together with water, scarlet, wool, and branches of hyssop, and sprinkled the scroll and all the people. He said, "This is the blood of the covenant which God has commanded you to keep." In the same way, he sprinkled with the blood both the tabernacle and everything used in its ceremonies. In fact, the law requires that nearly everything be cleansed with blood, and without the shedding of blood there is no forgiveness. It was necessary then for the copies of the heavenly things to be purified with these sacrifices, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Christ did not enter a sanctuary made with human hands. That was only a copy of the true one. He entered heaven itself, now to appear for us in God's presence. Nor did he enter heaven to offer himself again and again. The way the high priest enters the most holy place every year with blood, that is not his own. Otherwise, Christ would have had to suffer many times since the creation of the world. But he has appeared once for all at the accumulation of the ages to do away with sin by the sacrifice of himself. Just as people are destined to die once, and after that to face judgment, so Christ was sacrificed once to take away the sins of many, and he will appear a second time, not to bear sin, but to bring salvation to those who are waiting for him. And that was Hebrews for the last 3 days, guys. Let me get a drink here real quick. Thank you, sorry about that. Let me get in my place here for our psalm. Alright. Starting with Psalm 106, verses 13 through 31. We'll be continuing on from there. From there, for the last 3 days. Alright, let's get started. But they soon forgot what he had done. God rescuing the Hebrews from the land of Egypt. And did not wait for his plan to unfold. In the desert they gave in to their craving. In the wilderness they put God to the test. So he gave them what they asked for. He sent a wasting disease among them. In the camp they grew envious of Moses and of Aaron, who was consecrated to the Lord. The earth opened up and swallowed Dathan. It buried the company of Abram. Fire blazed among their followers. A flame consumed the wicked. At Horeb they made a calf. This is what they were worshiping now. And worshipped an idol cast from metal. They exchanged their glorious God for an image of a bull which eats grass. They forgot the God who saved them, who had done great things in Egypt, miracles in the land of Ham, and awesome deeds by the Red Sea. Remember how he split the sea in half and the Hebrews entered through the dry land of the sea? He made it like a desert. So he said he would destroy them, had not Moses, his chosen one, stood in the breach before him to keep his wrath from destroying them. Then they despised the pleasant land. They did not believe his promise. They grumbled in their tents and did not obey the Lord. So he swore to them with uplifted hand that he would make them fall in the wilderness, make their descendants fall among the nations, and scatter them throughout the lands. They yoked themselves to the Baal of Peor, and ate sacrifices offered to lifeless gods. They aroused the Lord's anger by their wicked deeds, and a plague broke out among them. But Phinehas stood up and intervened, and the plague was checked. This was credited to him as righteousness for endless generations to come. By the waters of Meribah they angered the Lord, and trouble came to Moses because of them. For they rebelled against the Spirit of God, and rash words came from Moses' lips. They did not destroy the peoples as the Lord had commanded them, but they mingled with the nations and adopted their customs. They worshipped their idols, which became a snare to them. They sacrificed their sons and their daughters to false gods. They shed innocent blood, the blood of their sons and daughters, whom they sacrificed to idols of Canaan. They defiled themselves by what they did. By their deeds they prostituted themselves. Therefore the Lord was angry with his people and abhorred his inheritance. He gave them into the hands of the nations, and their foes ruled over them. Their enemies oppressed them and subjected them to their power. Many times he delivered them, but they were bent on rebellion, and they wasted away in their sin. Yet he took note of their distress. When he heard their cry, for their sake he remembered his covenant, and out of his great love he relented. He caused all who held them captive to show them mercy. Save us, Lord our God, and gather us from the nations, that we may give thanks to your holy name and glory in your praise. Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, from everlasting to everlasting. Let all the people say amen. Praise the Lord. See what I mean? How it was? How God saved them over and over, and they kept turning away from God, and then when things got tough, they turned back, and when it got better, they turned away again, and the Lord kept forgiving. And now, for today's Psalm 107, into another book of Psalms, which is Psalms 107 through Psalm 150. So we're starting with Psalm 107. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. Those he redeemed from the hand of the foe. Those he gathered from the lands, from east and west, from north and south. Some wandered in the desert wastelands, finding no way to a city where they could settle. They were hungry and thirsty, and their lives ebbed away. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distress. He led them by the straight way to a city where they could settle. Let them give thanks to the Lord for their unfailing love, for his unfailing love, and his wonderful deeds for mankind. For he satisfies the thirsty and fills the hungry with good things. Some sat in darkness, in utter darkness, prisoners suffering in iron chains, because they rebelled against God's commands and despised the plans of the Most High. So he subjected them to bitter labor. They stumbled, and there was no one to help. Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them from his distress. From their distress he brought them out of darkness, the utter darkness, and broke away their chains. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. For he breaks down gates of bronze and cuts through bars of iron. Some became fools through their rebellious ways and suffered affliction because of their iniquities. They loathed all food and drew near the gates of death. Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he saved them from their distress. He sent out his word and healed them. He rescued them from the grave. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. Let them sacrifice thank offerings and tell of his works with songs of joy. Some went out on the sea in ships. They were merchants on the mighty waters. They saw the works of the Lord, his wonderful deeds in the deep. For he spoke and stirred up a tempest that lifted high the waves. They mounted up to the heavens and went down to the depths. In their peril, their courage melted away. They reeled and staggered like drunkards. They were at their wits' end. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distress. He stilled the storm to a whisper. The waves of the sea were hushed. They were glad when it grew calm, and he guided them to their desired haven. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. Let them exalt him in the assembly of the people and praise them in the council of the elders. He turned rivers into a desert, flowing springs into thirsty ground, and fruitful land into a salt waste because of the wickedness of those who lived there. He turned the desert into pools of water and the parched ground into flowing springs. There he brought the hungry to live, and they founded a city where they could settle. They sowed fields and planted vineyards that yielded a fruitful harvest. He blessed them, and their numbers greatly increased, and he did not let their herds diminish. Then their numbers decreased, and they were humbled by oppression, calamity, and sorrow. He who pours contempt on nobles made them wander in a trackless waste. But he lifted the needy out of their affliction and increased their families like flocks. The upright see and rejoice, but all the wicked shut their mouths. Let the one who is wise heed these things and ponder the loving deeds of the Lord. And that was Psalm 107. Okay, guys, now let's get our Proverbs done for the last 3 days. Starting with Proverbs chapter 27, verses 7, 8, and 9. And going straight through for the last 3 days. One who is full loathes honey from the comb, but to the hungry, even what is bitter tastes sweet. Like a bird that flees its nest is anyone who flees from home. Perfume and incense brings joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. Do not forsake your friend or a friend of your family, and do not go to your relative's house when disaster strikes you. Better a neighbor nearby than a relative far away. Be wise, my son, and bring joy to my heart. Then I can answer anyone who treats me with contempt. Sherm, can you check the time? We'll see if we got time to do our prayer requests. Here in us. Sherm checks for me.
Ooh, 24.
Okay, we just got, I'll just do a couple really short ones here real quick. We can only go to 30, so. I'd like you guys to please keep in your prayers and ask prayers for Luke Boggs and his mom, Bridget Boggs. Luke needs a lot of prayers. He's having trouble with his leg. And I'd like for you to pray for April and Linda Thacker. They have a lot of health problems. They need a lot of prayer. Pray for Macy. Pray for Eric. Pray for Sherman Crabtree, please. Pray for Sandy and Rosie, Paris, Jude, and Susie. Please. Pray for Garnet Boyer and Jim, please. Cindy and Jim Welsh, please. Rhonda Karshner, Abby Myers, Jimmy Myers, Barb Post, please. Randy Post and Jody Mahorter, please. Christopher Serback, Norma Boyer, Kenny Wellman, Ronnie Mahorter, all the homeless people and animals, the Mollett family, Ramona Henry, Debbie Lee, Nikki Mahorter, Patty and Ernie Haynes, Ariana Lloyd, Kat and Alicia, Stephanie, Michelle Turner, Melody Ramey, Mindy Gallimore, Katie Mahorter and her family, Kinsley, Olson, Toby, Kaylee, Gabe, Cohen, Michelle Turner, Tammy Ashworth, Shannon and her little son Giovanni, who has a terrible rare illness. I guess we're going to have time to go through them all. Cara Newman and her husband Josh. Is that everybody that I've got on here? Margie and Chuck Sickles, Brandon, Jeremy Caverly, Norman Karshner,
27.
Lonnie Doles Jr. and family, Ann Wellman. I think I've got everybody on the list. You know anyone?
Yep.
Alright, guys. Michelle Boyer and family, and Danielle. Alright, guys. That is everything. Sorry we're behind videos. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Let's bring those souls to Jesus, and God willing, we'll see you guys again tomorrow, God willing, with another Bible reading. Bye, guys. God bless.